Hey, welcome everyone to Impartner MasterClass. We're going to be starting the session in just a moment. Allow some time for others to join us live. But in the meantime, as usual, please drop into the chat where in the world you're joining us from. Last session, we had people joining from all over the world, from Australia to all over Europe. It was pretty great. I'm coming to you again from Draper, Utah, or as some NBA players would call it, the city of Utah. Okay. But also today I'm going to be joined by Caday of Spur Reply, and she's going to be coming to us live from Seattle, Washington. Supersonic, right? Anyway, we'll come back to you in just a moment. Okay, let's get started. I'll go ahead and bring in our guest here. So welcome to MasterClass, Episode 2, the mother of all sequels. I'm your host, Trevor Burnett, and in case you missed it, MasterClass is a new live stream series where we take an innovative approach to channel management education that focuses on live social media sessions that provide strategic guidance on starting and scaling world-class channel programs and building out partner ecosystems. We go pretty unscripted on here, but that I always want to read so I can get that description just right. Anyway, we cover a variety of topics in these sessions, and we invite a lot of guests so we can have speaker experts. And while we already have several topics planned out, we do want to hear from you and our channel community. And so we'll have a feedback survey at the end of this session, so be on the lookout for that in the chat so you can have your voice heard in that regard. And speaking of guest speakers, I have the pleasure of being accompanied today by Caday of Spur Reply. She is the director of channel strategy there. So welcome, Kate, and will you please introduce yourself to our fine audience?
You bet. Absolute pleasure to be here. And Trevor, thanks so much for the intro and for leading these series. So a little bit about Spur. Spur Reply, formerly the Spur Group, is a go-to-market focused consulting firm that's based in the Seattle area, which means I'm currently looking outside to gray skies and even a little bit of snow today. So fantastic weather, typical Pacific Northwest. But with decades of experience and over 4,000 engagements under our belt as a firm, the Spur Reply Group has a comprehensive approach to addressing business challenges. Our mission is to turn customer, partner, and employee experiences into competitive advantages. And we've had the pleasure of collaborating with Impartner to address key business needs across a number of companies: Splunk, Palo Alto, Zendesk, SolarWinds, Itron, Poly, just to name a few. So fantastic collaboration, and happy to be here today, Trevor.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate that intro, and glad to not just be talking by myself this session, so that'll be great. Let's see if I can get these windows arranged so I can show the presentation here just right. Maybe. I don't know how to do that. Maybe if my helper can do that. Thank you very much. All right, so we want that arrangement. There we go. I figured it out. All right, so let's get right into it. Feeling festive. We had a little bit of festive music to start there as our hold music, so hopefully everybody enjoyed that. But yeah, the sun is shining. It's the holiday season. Really happy to be here today. So as I always say, the sessions, well, I say always, this is episode 2. Anyway, what I will always be saying is these sessions are pretty informal. I just want to write down a few goals of our conversation. Otherwise, I'm going to end up on a long tangent talking about the World Cup and how exciting the Argentina win was yesterday, because that's what I'm really into. Lived a couple of years down there, so my heart is down there, as I put in the chat. Anyway, so we'll cover a couple of the common pain points or challenges that people have when they're running an MDF program, either just starting it out or the various different ways that people are managing that and the usual challenges that you could run into there. And then we'll talk about some of the solutions to those challenges and best practices. Kate and I together have had a lot of experience and be fortunate enough to talk to a lot of companies and work through these challenges and have some good solution sessions with them and can share our lessons learned in that regard. And then I will turn it over to Kate. I brought her on here for a reason. She is an expert in this area and really knows her stuff on the MDF. So I really wanted to get her perspective after I give my point of view on the points that we'll cover. And we'll go from there. All right. So first of all, the challenges, as I mentioned, that you face. First of all, as that first bullet point says, it's not usually meant for all partners. You'll probably want some sort of segmentation because you don't want your low-level, not profitable partners, or maybe if they're just referral partner, whatever it may be, you probably don't want to expose or extend MDF dollars to every single one of the partners that are logging into your portal or the tools you provide to them. Second is a big one, and we've addressed this in a couple of pieces of content that we've put out there at Impartner, but a lot of funds are left unspent. It's estimated that 50 billion, that's 50 and then with a B, $50 billion in MDF is put out there each year collectively. And depending on which study you look at, anywhere from 30 to 60% goes unused. And that is a lot of dough to leave on the table. A lot of missed opportunities that are out there. As you went through all the struggle to get that budget allocated and approved and available to your partners, and just to leave it out there is a big miss. So we'll talk about possible ways of minimizing that waste. And then next we have many struggle with getting proof of performance beyond the receipts of how much money was spent. So, going beyond the wink and a handshake of, yeah, that Lakers game that I took all these prospects to, it was great. We'll totally get a lot of sales out of that. That's not very concrete. You want a little bit better picture of the ROI there. So I have a technology way of solving that I want to walk through. And then related to that, does your partner, if your partner does happen to track the leads or the opportunities that were associated to that spend with the MDF that was supplied, it's commonly sent in an email. You get a spreadsheet of here's all the leads, and that may or may not ever make it into your CRM. So you get the full closed circle ROI picture of all the resulting opportunities that came from that. And of course, the resulting closed won opportunities is the most important. So I'm interested to hear Kate's response to these, but from my perspective, for that first bullet, you should have a PRM or your portal tool that has segmentation capabilities. And you're going to need to only expose the MDF program to the right audience. You don't want to be having materials or communication out there saying, hey, don't forget to spend the rest of your money. And people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. So at least have it be a controlled, targeted approach so that you can control access to the MDF feature and tools, either from a company basis or even on an individual basis by their job role or their title. And for that second bullet, making it more visible and obvious how much money the partner has budgeted to them is a big deal. So, if you just say, hey, MDF is available, you should request it, but I have no idea how much I have available to me or how much I have left to spend. Maybe I've requested some dollars, but I don't know how much I have left. just having that lack of visibility is a big driver and a big reason why a lot of those funds are left unspent, is what we found in our research. And then for that third bullet, I made a little looping video to highlight how the Impartner platform has recently been updated to solve for this. So let me show quickly. Yeah, I tried to do a screenshot, but it was kind of small there. So I went ahead and just made a little animated GIF that walks through how you can go to the budget page. I picked an approved request that I've made there, and then I have sections for both leads and what we call deals or opportunities. And I can add any that are tied to me as this partner that I'm logged in, any leads that I have either assigned to me or that I've registered as deal registrations. I can go ahead and go through and make that association. That way you're closing a loop, you have the data tied to each of those MDF campaigns, and it's just going to keep looping in here while I talk. But you'll have that full circle, and then you can go in as an admin on the back end, get the reporting, be able to see, okay, from this campaign, how many leads were generated, how many deals were approved or closed, and how much revenue can I associate to each of those MDF campaigns. So, another side benefit is you're able to see how effective each partner is. And if they're not taking the effort to make that association, because it is on the partner to go ahead and let you know which of those leads and deals are associated to those the MDF dollars that they've been approved for. You can use it as a way to encourage them. Hey, you need to make that association, or your budget's going to be going down. You're not going to get as much MDF spend because we can't see how effective that is. So it behooves the partner to do this, and obviously immediate benefit to you on your side, so you can get a clear picture of the effectiveness of all those campaigns. All right, so that was my quick perspective. I want to bring in Kay. She is the star of this show. So Kate, I prepared a couple of questions to help give you the idea of the kind of things that we want to cover here. So first of all, what are some of the key MDF challenges that Spur Reply and your clients that you need help with?
Yeah, absolutely. Trevor, you covered already a lot of challenges that we're hearing from our clients frequently. So fantastic tee up there. I think that lack of visibility to ROI continues to be the top challenge we hear when it comes to DF. And, as Trevor already previewed, a great tool can really go a long way in helping address that challenge, but, it's a common one for sure. A second challenge that we hear a lot about or see a lot is limited control over spend. So, you've got these MDF dollars going out the door. Where are they going? Obviously, yes, what's the return on it? But can we even steer partners toward usage of this fund that aligns with our strategic priorities as a company? And that goes back to something you said too earlier, Trevor, which is like, are we even funneling our funds to the right partners? And so just needing more control over that MDF spend. And then finally, complexity. We have so many clients that we work with who just say, our MDF, back office, right? The behind the scenes, like allocation and governance of it, it's just a mess. We have no idea, how in the world to clarify that, make it more seamless, and ultimately provide a better partner experience, let alone, back office experience and, field experience for all those working with the MDF funds.
Very good. All right. So next here, I have, what are your clients looking to achieve when it comes to MDF?
Yeah. So visibility ROI, sure. Operational simplicity, reporting accuracy, definitely. We also like to push clients beyond that too. Think about how to use MDF as a strategic force. And we'll talk about a bit about that in a second as I walk through some of my best practices when it comes to MDF.
All right, love the teaser. Okay, so do you have any real-time examples or real-life examples, I guess, that you can share as you work with people?
Definitely. I'll talk through a couple of examples of dealing with the thorny nature of MDF. We once worked with the clients that really struggle to balance worldwide and geo priorities, which, so many folks, right, are regularly working through. So you've got two really valuable perspectives. You've got your worldwide perspective, typically thinking about the future of the company and really trying to steer things. Geo perspective, right? People, who are working with partners every day within the market know what partners need, what, direction the market's going in and so forth. And so, providing a way to give enough control over both parties to be able to achieve great outcomes with MDF was key. So what we worked with was to kind of reformulate the allocation model so that Funds went into a single bucket, but then it was ring fenced by geo, and then also with a corporate ring fence that could be used for strategic programs. So geos were still empowered to make decisions for the region, but there still was some room for worldwide teams to be able to use DF for strategic priorities on a global level. So that's one example. Another was how we worked with clients to integrate DF better into their business planning process. And so, again, going back to what you said earlier, DF isn't necessarily for all partners, right? So DF is really effective when you bake it into your annual business planning rhythm. And you talk with top partners about DF, related to tangible outcomes that are win-win for both the partner and for you. So, making sure that you can set aside that DF to funnel it toward your partners who are doing the activities that matter most to your business, but also that they agree are things that they're excited to drive forward to.
Very good. All right. So the part I'm most excited about here is what does Spur recommend as best practices? And I was a little clairvoyant. I just knew what you're going to say. So I had to make a slide about it, but I would like you to talk through each of these points.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the first best practice is, getting that visibility to the ROI and proving it out. So we got a couple of classic data issues. You've got the correlation versus causation piece when it comes to anything related to, demand generation, enablement, and so forth. And then also getting good, clean data from partners. So you often feel like, how do I remotely show ROI from this big bucket of funding? So solutions, insist on the higher fidelity, proof of performance, proof of execution, upgrade your platform and close the loop, just like you showed us how to do, Trevor. So that's definitely a first and foremost piece. Secondly, steer your partners to success. So a lot of vendors have a really wide range of activities that are eligible for DF, or sometimes they have just a really narrow range of MDF eligible activities it's too narrow, right? So really revisiting those eligible activities lists and recalibrating them is always key. And then you also got this piece where sometimes vendors have pretty loose proof of performance or proof of execution requirements. It totally makes sense when you're standing up an MDF program. And when you're trying to do things manually, it's easier to just have a lightweight system where you're not putting a lot of scrutiny into it. But as you mature as a company, you obviously want to make sure that your proof of performance, proof of execution requirements are stringent enough to make sure that you are, directing that investment wisely. And a final piece of that is, partners may gravitate toward lower value or easier activities, right? Whatever is an easy way to kind of meet those goals and get reimbursed and so forth. So one of the things that you can do is steer your partners by steering your partner management teams. So work with, the leads from your partner manager teams to align that MDF spend back to corporate priorities and highest value activities. All right. So, okay, let's talk governance for a second. So, for larger clients particularly, MDF can so easily get complex, right? You've got complex funding or allocation models, you've got MDF silos, you've got partners having to apply for multiple MDF programs. Without strong and centralized MDF governance, it's really easy to turn MDF into a nightmare for yourself and your partners. So solutions: stand up a strong governance cadence to manage your MDF fund. Bring together those worldwide and geo teams, just like I talked about with that real world example. Make sure everybody is at the table and discussing on a regular occurring basis to talk through different priorities and how that might be realized through MDF investment. And so that's where governance really comes in. The next piece is thinking about MDF as pertains to your broader partner profitability and incentive strategy. So MDF is just one key that you have, or one lever that you have amongst many to help drive partner profitability and ultimately your company's profitability. So balance it with other means of incenting partners. So rebates and margin for overall profitability for your partners and transaction-related, incenting. But DF, it's uniquely flexible, and it's uniquely flexible across the customer lifecycle. So think outside the box. Don't use MDF to leverage the same behaviors that you already incent elsewhere. So think about double dipping. If you already have programs where you're, helping incent partners to do XYZ things, and you have MDF eligibility too, look for ways that you can unify and streamline so that you're really targeting MDF where other incentive programs aren't already there, or other kind of, one-time programs that you might have running. So going back to thinking outside the box, double clicking on this one a little bit, move beyond just marketing. So a lot of times we work with clients, they're like, hey, MDF means it's just demand gen activities, right? But the thing is that DF can be used for enablement, for solutioning, yes, of course, for demand gen, And for practice building, there's a lot of different ways that you can creatively use DF. And we've worked with clients, to do things like fund unique programs like practice activation at scale, or to provide, training vouchers. Of course, event sponsorship and attendance and so forth. But just think outside the box. There might be many ways to use DF that you haven't thought about before. I'm going to pause for a moment. The final piece is you have to have the right tools. If you don't have the right tools, your strategy can't be implemented. So you need excellent operational capabilities, back office rigor, and that helps you make all of these things feasible at scale without overburdening your teams, and meanwhile while providing that great partner experience. Going back to what Trevor was saying, right? You got unspent funds because for many partners, it's cumbersome, right? Or they lack visibility. These are all things that can be solved with the right tools.
Yeah, also, that was actually going to be a comment from me. I noticed you kept saying DF, and now it makes sense. It doesn't have to be tied to marketing. I guess that's the method why you say that.
That's a great call, and apologies. Sometimes I try to say DF to just be all-inclusive. Market development funds can be used for anything you want to, but sometimes I like the little mental thing of like, oh yeah, solution DF, enablement-focused DF, not just marketing.
Right. Okay, well, let's get into any questions that we may have in the chat here. We'll give a moment for people to enter in the chat. We have this streaming on a couple of platforms, so you may not see each other, depending on if you're joining us from LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever it may be. So let's see. I see one here to start us off. I think that's how you highlight. There you go. Kate, would you mind fielding out one? So what segment of partners do you recommend vendors focus their MDF or DF on?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say, as always, it depends on your company. But for the most part, you want to be focusing it on partners where you have a proven track record of strong results and commitment in the past. That being said, though, I think a lot of companies that we've worked with have confused that with high volume transactional partners. And though those partners might be great candidates for DF because they're actively helping grow your revenue too, and they always need MDF to fund demand generation activities, think beyond that. There might be some strategic partners that have a lot of momentum, like you've been seeing them take a lot of trainings, build a lot of pipeline. They might be smaller overall in your ecosystem, but they might have a lot of momentum and growth behind them. Those are some potential partners that you might want to think about funneling some MDF toward to help further grow their commitment to you and momentum with your company.
Very good. Looks like we have time for at least one more. How about this one? Do you recommend using proposal-based or accrual-based MDF?
It's a great question. We have clients who like them both. In general, accrual-based MDF, we wouldn't necessarily recommend for the majority of your MDF spend. The reason why is, of course, that means a little bit of loss of control for you as the vendor as to how that MDF ends up getting used, unless you have stringent, requirements around, generally it's only accepted for a narrow range of activities. So sometimes there will be a case for making a split, right? Like accrual-based MDF for kind of a longer tail of partners in very small amounts. And then sometimes using more proposal-based for larger amounts of DF. So maybe a blend for some companies. But you have to evaluate whether it makes sense for you. There's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the overarching thing that I keep figuring out is there's no silver bullet. Unfortunately, that'd be awesome. But yeah, you do have to have it depending on the needs of your business and your partners, and you really have to kind of cue in onto what those needs are, and it could take some adjusting, right? You may not get it right the first time, but go through and be willing to make adjustments on the fly, and I think that's where you're going to find the most success.
Yeah, again, that comes back to making sure that you have a platform in place and the tools in place so that you can see, you have enough visibility to make the adjustments you need to. So yeah.
All right. Well, that is our show. And thank you again, Kate, for joining me. That was very, very helpful. I loved hearing all of your expertise there. So make sure to check out Spur Reply. Contact Kate on LinkedIn if you want to figure out more or learn more about any of the things she talked about. We'll also be posting this recording, so be sure to like and share this episode with your network. You can click on the link in the description and fill out our survey. Yep, looks like we got the banner, the ticker there. We look like CNN. This is great. So all the episodes will be featured on the Impartner YouTube page. That's youtube.com/ I think it's @Impartner. And then, and if you haven't already, please register for our next episode. We'll be doing it in the new year. We'll all look a little bit skinnier from our New Year's resolutions, maybe. And so that's going to be Thursday, January 19th. And that's going to be MasterClass episode 3. And that's going to be on how to use partner data to 10x marketing and sales. That's pretty great. In that one, I'll be joined by the CEO of PartnerTap, Cassandra Golston. So, all right. And until next time, this is your host, Trevor Burnett, wishing you a very happy and safe holiday season. And goodbye, everybody.